Okay. This is a patron request. Thank you to Deonti. We're just gonna get right into this.
You got a reputation for yourself now.
I love that this is like a sound check, and they're just giving it realness. This takes practice to get to a point where you open your mouth and something heartfelt comes out. It takes a lot. You have to be willing to go there, and you have to be willing to phrase and practice. That's why I'm doing all those posts of me singing, because I tell my students, you got to put yourself out there. You got to put yourself out there. So I gotta practice what I preach here. It takes a while to be able to just like casually, really beautifully express yourself with singing.
Oh, everybody knows enough less. You got me down.
The tuning is so good. There's a concept. So over the many centuries that we've had music, there have been a lot of different ways to tune. I don't know, some Greek dude, Pythagorean, I don't know. He came up with these intervals that he would declare as being beautiful. So we have intervals like that. But when we changed our tuning from what would be called just tuning, where you really, really can match each frequency. For example, on a piano, that's a third. But the relationship between do and mi, the 1 and the 3, is that the 3 is actually a lot more flat than what would be ideal, what would be like ideal, perfect sonorous tuning. So if we make it not flat, it sounds like this. So, okay, so I just recorded this here. Piano, right, versus big difference, right? So the prior, the one on the piano, is called equal temperament tuning. Every single half step is the same. Just tuning takes listening, it takes practice, because you need to kind of lock in. And they're just locking in. They're just doing it.
Ever since I left the city,
And the other thing too is they don't compromise their technique to pull it off. This is where there are so many people who sing in choirs who poo-poo on technique. They're like, whatever, it's just important to be a musician. And it's important to be a musician. But if you're compromising your voice for the sake of tuning, you're compromising your sound, you're compromising your technique, you're compromising your ability to sing for long periods of time, and it just doesn't sound as good. Pitch is normally a technique issue. If you have clean technique, intonation is usually not a problem. So what the result is we have these women with beautiful, lush voices who don't have a technical problem, unless we get into some sort of extreme that we're not hearing. They don't have a technical problem. They're wonderfully talented singers, and they have gorgeous voices, technique aside. And so put that all together, and that's when you get this sound. There's so much work that goes into just what we're hearing, and it's awesome. I love humanity. I love human beings. Not all the time, but when I see this, it makes me hopeful.
Oh, late night when you need my love.
Ooh, ooh! Listen to this little slide here.
When you need my love.
That just takes, you have to sing with the same group of singers over and over and over and over and over again. You can't, the reason why is you can't formally tie a rhythm to a slide or a glissando, I guess. Glissandi, whatever. Italian terms. A slide. You can't be like, we're going to descend at this rate over time, everyone's going to be like, what? Right? You have to build an intuition for it, and you have to listen to one another and do it. It's extremely difficult to do when you're new to a group, which is one of the really awesome reasons that when you hear Chloe and Halle together, when you hear June's Diary, when you hear these groups or these singers sing together and they start doing these slide things, it's special. It's really special.
Birthday, so we decided.
Ooh, harmonies. Ooh, they got chords.
We decided to sing this little song for you.
Listen to how gorgeous each individual singer's voice is, and then listen to how their phrasing is so precise and elegant, right?
To sing this little song for.
And then listen to them all bring the dynamic down and use the oo vowel for a specific something.
You.
Right?
For you.
That's more of that sliding stuff. Really, really tough. I think the snapping is a really, really good idea. If you ever want to do this with people, I got my dog over here begging for attention. But if you ever want to do this with a group of singers, really, really helps to just see if you can snap together on time, right? To just see if you can agree on the tempo and the meter in such a way that it's basically exact. The difference between the snap that just happened versus the snap that happened before, if you try to snap and it all sounds like it happens exactly at the same time, it almost feels like a clap. Okay? I want you to close your eyes and try to tell me how many snaps you think you hear. Because when they all get together on it exactly, it just sounds like a clap or one snap, right? That's how tight they are. Okay? The speed of sound is very fast, and the human ear is incredible. If something is 50 milliseconds in difference, we hear that as an echo, it's really cool. Everybody, this is universal for human beings. 50 milliseconds is just apparently the time that our minds universally throughout humanity decided that something is no longer reverb, that it's an echo. So these are very, very precise things, these ears. And they're so precise that we cannot tell the difference. Listen to when the snapping sounds like a da-da-da-da versus when it's all together. I mean, you can record them on a phone and it sounds angelic. That's crazy. They're all agreeing on when to tilt the thyroid cartilage, right? When you have vibrato, what's happening is that the Adam's apple, right? This giant shield-like cartilage, the thyroid cartilage, tilts. When it tilts, the vocal folds stretch out like rubber bands. Eventually, I will get a visual model of this to help people understand. You can tilt, there's an entire range of motion. So they go from not tilting, aka straight tone, and they all agree on when to tilt. Obviously, they're not like, writing it down like, okay, girls, we're gonna thyroid cartilage tilt right hither in the time. Like, just like like a football team doesn't be like, we're gonna make this play all together here and there, and we're just not gonna practice it, right? Like, a real athletic team effort is one where the coordination is already locked down, and then it's just about executing, right? So same thing applies here. The woman on the right did a belt, and then so she tilted the cricoid cartilage. As she was belting and tilted that cricoid cartilage, she started to transition, right? There are two cartilage, cricoid, thyroid. Cricoid is belt, thyroid is like a more classical. So as she was tilting the cricoid for that belt, she starts to untilt it while she tilts the thyroid cartilage. It's like larynx Olympics over here. Gorgeous. My dog wants attention, and I couldn't say no to this face. So here we go. Ooh. There's some really, really good counterpoint going on. Counterpoint is using melody to create harmony, right? It's how you get, like, it's not chord, chord, chord. It's these individual voices moving to form chords. It's really cool. I want you to listen to the vowels. You're gonna hear them as separate at first, and then as they tighten up the vowels around one another because they're listening, you're gonna hear that effect. You're gonna hear this unison sound. This. Am I boring you? Am I boring you, doggy? That's really cool. I got you, Anya. I got you. So that's really cool because, like, it's the harmonies too. Like, they're changing keys, they're doing mode mixture, they're doing, secondary dominance, or basically all these things that allow us to do different chords that are not within the scale. Dog, you are hairy. You are shedding like a. So one of the really challenging things about working in different spaces, when you work in a space like a stairwell or like a gymnasium, it takes a long time for the sound to decay, right? There's a lot of reverb. So the challenge is, how do you change harmonies when there's still this previous harmony echoing in the space? The way that you do that is you slow down how you transition between chords. And this is a good example of them doing exactly that. It doesn't make sense to me how, like, these women, I hope can make a full-time living off of music, because I would love nothing more than to be in the presence of this amazingness. Okay, we got a little bit of a versus battle. Okay? All right, Little Mix, what do you got? It's not the volume and the way that June's Diary were able to lock in by, they didn't have one person truly out singing or being very much higher in volume than the other members. Now, to be fair, that could be a result of the recording equipment that they used, right? Lower quality recordings like phones, et cetera, really squish and compress the sound to make it more uniform. So that might be what's going on here. But it's very difficult to hear not the singers who are not on the melody here. The second I say that, it's like all better.
DNA, DNA, it's in his DNA, it's in his DNA, it's in.
So there are some examples of them like really matching vowels and blending. I was always impressed that like June's Diary could just immediately blend with one another. And this is a great example of Little Mix doing it. They're just on top. They're just sharing the vowels with the other parts that are singing the same vowels. It's really, really elegant.
Things that we could be. Lately, I've been praying hard.
I want those mic covers. Because like they keep the sound really, really, really clean. There's very little bleed from the other singers. That's why this mix sounds so clean. No pun intended. But yeah, I want that.
One day care is so unfair.
There's a very, very big difference in the way that they approach technique as opposed to June's Diary. In June's Diary, it's a very, very like open, rich sound. You know, some lowered larynx most of the time. You know, vibrato and all of this lushness. And the difference with that, with Little Mix, is that they're not going for as much of this lushness that June's Diary had. They're kind of doing more traditional, like kind of choral blending. It's not to say it sounds bad. You know, obviously this sounds amazing, but it's very, very, very different in the approach, and it's a matter of preference. I prefer the aesthetic that June's Diary achieves, but this is completely subjective, right? But it's I think it's noteworthy. I think it's noteworthy to look at the aesthetics between the two and what their goals are. I want this budget. I mean, like, I have to be like good in order to get this budget. Working on it, but I want it.
Just takes my breath away. I feel it every day. We don't mean to be rude. Why don't you leave it? Name and your number. We'll get back to you. I know that you keep.
This is really, really, really tight. Very, very clean. Very tight. The way that they're just on time together. The way that, you know, she's going on the off beats and it's right on the money. This is really, really excellent stuff. Very impressive.
How you doing, hey? How you doing, hey? How you doing, hey?
So the thing that you know, so beatboxing on YouTube has exploded, right? This is a ginormous beatboxing movement. You better not be showing this on camera. You can be appropriate here. But so a lot of people, when they listen to beatbox, they listen for like a variety of sounds, right? Like right? So like stuff like that is really popular on YouTube. I don't know if the mic picked up any of it because I'm so far away because I'm a dog. But the real difficulty of beatboxing is being the drummer of the group, right? You have to be the one who locks in the rhythm. You're the one who carries that torch. And that is the thing that people don't train. They don't train with a metronome. They don't train with timing. So, but when you do, the result is this, right? This is super clean. Every bit of rhythm is exact. It's great.
Never get back to you. With somebody who loves me.
Bonus round. I just want to point out, because and I said in the at some point that I prefer the aesthetic that June's Diary goes for, and I just want to take the time to point out that it's not that Little Mix can't do it. Like, they do it on one of the chords here. They go full lush, beautiful blend.
Don't you know
I want to gush over blending as a concept. So human beings are amazing, right? We can simplify something as complicated as arranging our vocal tract to bias certain harmony or certain frequencies, right? We just call those vowels, right? vowels. Okay, right. But the thing that accomplishes vowels is we adjust our face hole and throat to create vowels, and we intuit from there, right? When you're singing, you have to be more specific than e, a, o, u. You can land on one of these vowels, but depending on what you do, it will change the way that vowel sounds. There's a big difference between e and e, right? Big difference between the two. So the reason I bring this up is because when you want to blend, you have to be very sensitive to these minor adjustments, because they're all on the same vowel, but they all have to be kind of shaping their vocal tract to replicate one another. And that's how you blend, right? So this is just really cool. I just want to say that, you know, we like, I think a lot of these versus things that happen, like, you know, this singer versus that singer, this group versus that group. I don't care who wins, because we all win. You know what I mean? Like, we all win when people are this good at what they do. When I do it. That's just awesome. Like I said, everyone wins. I prefer the aesthetic of June's Diary, but it's a choice. It's a choice. This isn't about who's better at technique, who makes better music. You know, it's good. I'm glad that they're not like trying to sound the same, right? That there's this one aesthetic that both groups are trying to achieve. I'm glad that's not what the case is. These are really talented women, and it's a pleasure to listen to all of them together, regardless of what my preference is. You can't deny the level of excellence from both of them. This is a real pleasure.